Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of the Dual Drive Megazord from Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. So this is honestly one of the most weird and interesting releases of Megazords. I could go on for a whole video just about this, but just to get a little bit into it, this is the second Megazord released during Overdrive, and it was essentially meant to represent the combination of the core Megazord and the first four auxiliaries, but they decided instead to just repaint Red Zord black and include these two auxiliaries and then make the other two, Cement and Crane, slippers. It was really weird. I feel like they didn't know how to handle auxiliaries back then, because now we have auxiliary releases in various ways, but back then we didn't really get them. So I feel like Bandai of America just didn't know how to handle that. But it's weird because they had the perfect setup to do the first release, the actual dual drive, Siren Builder, and then Voyager. But they wound up releasing this first, it's the first released dual drive Megazord. And then in the second half of the toy line, they released the second dual drive Megazord, which is actually the four proper auxiliaries and the jet. So I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place. It came off as weird, like a combination of them not knowing how to handle it, or it also came off like they didn't know what else was going to be releasing in the wave. But bottom line is that with the 4 Megazord a year setup, they, had the perfect opportunity to avoid having to do individual auxiliary releases, but they just didn't know how to handle it. And add that on top of the fact that this was the first year we did our own molds, as I mentioned in DriveMax's review, and since it was the first time we did it, it's funny that we had larger, less colorful molds as opposed to now where they're smaller. But anyway, I just find it to be kind of interesting considering this was their first foray into doing their own stuff and like the journey it took. I'll probably comment on it in further videos when we get to Jungle Fury and stuff. But anyway, this is what we got. The main core Zord is a black repaint of reds, which is kind of weird. It could have been neat, kind of like the stuff they do now. This actually, in some ways, isn't too different from some of the Dino Charge stuff they're doing now. But I think it's weird that they kept this red. I think they should have made it either gold or silver. It actually would have looked quite a bit cooler as an individual. But it's the same as reds from the other one. It can roll and it'll transform and these go up and all that stuff. Shovel here is pretty okay. It's pretty basic. It looks kind of cheap. It kind of looks like a generic like construction toy you would get from like there's like the aisle in the toy store that's like filled with generic kid stuff, like construction and tools. That's what it kind of feels like in general, but this toy kind of sells it more. But as you just saw there, it can twist around and you actually can move the crane, which is kind of nice. Just you have a little bit of options there, and you can move the mouth open here a little bit. So and then you have the drill here, which turns manually like this. You can't turn it from like this bit like usual, but it does roll and you can turn that there, and it looks just kind of very, very okay. And then of course you have the slippers, which are just, this one especially is just pitiful because it has nothing. It's just like the front end. I don't know what they're thinking. And then like the crane here at least has a little bit of something because you got the helmet on it, but it's missing the crane. It's just, this is the type of stuff that I understood why people are complaining about. Like now when I see, the Megazord doesn't have that one strip of paint. Remember what they did here. This is just a slipper. And like you could put the head the other way where it's like facing like this, and I've seen some pictures of it like that, but I just prefer the other way where the face isn't facing you. But yeah, that's how it goes. So to set it up, these guys are already ready, and then for this, just fold this out and fold these, whoops, wrong way. You can do it both ways, but this is the way you want to do it, like that, and you have that set up basically, and pull these apart. That is one thing with this, and then with the arm joints, this actually has a fair amount of pretty tough little connections, which is nice because they won't just pop out on you, but kind of annoying, especially when I'm trying to do that without like knocking the camera over. So then you just slide these slippers on, like so. Actually, it should be a little farther up, I believe. There we go. Yes, a little farther up so that they're closer there. It's like, it can go on both ways, so it makes it confusing for a second. So yeah, you got that, and then these hands just simply connect on the side. There you go. Sorry if that's a little bit off camera for a second. And then the helmet, super easy, just fold those out. and snap that on. And there you have this really weird release. So like you can see, this is usually supposed to be the combined mode of the 9, but it's just this, and it's odd. It's certainly one of the oddest releases that they ever had. And I always think back to how this line was handled when people complain nowadays about how it's handled. But yeah, it's interesting that we went for bigger molds for our first originals, and we handled them so weird. And then in Jungle Fury, we did a combination of both, using the Japanese molds and our own molds, which into RPM and MMPR 2010 became sort of the standard. So like you basically can quote unquote combine this in various forms with the main drive max, you know, outside of the other dual drive. You can swap obviously this main piece. It doesn't make that much of a difference, especially for drive max, because if I were to swap this in, it actually doesn't look all that different. It basically just makes the legs look black or unpainted, because the core chest on the Drive Max basically just looks black anyway, since it's the Black Rangers Zord. So there's not a whole lot of difference there. And you can obviously swap those arms out. But you can, if we twist this around, I'm just going to do this one thing just to show that you can do this. You can just get his head to roll right off. Heads will roll in this review, guys. Nailed it. But just fold these out, and then we're going to put the slippers basically back on. This time actually using the back ones, because it needs more space. Just silence, like just dead silence. I have no words. There we go, that actually went easier than usual. Sometimes it's just a little bit obnoxious. Alright, let's put his head back on. There you go. And then you can take, I just brought in just to show, excuse me. You can put in like yellow and pink Zords in here to sort of fill it out a little bit and all that stuff. So you can do that. You can obviously, like I said, swap in the regular red one from Drive Max and do the same thing. But yeah, this is a very weird release. I honestly can't really recommend it unless you just like owning things for like a weird like toy historical value. Like this was such an interesting release I want in my collection. But this is supposed to light up too. I forgot to mention that. I just realized that, but mine's dead. But anyway, but so I can't really recommend it outside of those type of people, because I know that there are those type of collectors that just like owning things for those type of reasons. But from a pure regular collection standpoint, I can't really recommend this. If you are going for hunting down the old Overdrive Zords, I recommend getting the second dual drive release, which is the actual 4 auxiliaries and then the jet, which make its own Megazord, and they can all combine. I personally do not own that. There's a small chance out of, you know, that same sort of niche reason of collecting that if I find it super cheap on eBay one day, I could pick it up just for the completion's sake and bring a review. But as of right now, I decided not to pick it up because it was at this point, back when Overdrive came out, that I decided to just stick with the Bokenger stuff for the main Zords, just for ease, because we did not know there was going to be the second dual drive at the time. But anyway, yeah, overall, weird release. Can't recommend unless you like niche collectible things. Anyway, until next time, it's your 3Z Podcast, writersrandom.com, and of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.